Hi there, so I'm going to be teaching you about knights. Now, what do you think of when you hear the word knights? Shiny majestic armor? A person slaying a dragon? Probably not a guy bound to the code of chivalry with major back problems, right? Alright, so why don't we talk about the basic stuff. The knights followed a code of chivalry. This meant that they would have a strong religious faith and that they would also have to protect the Catholic Church, women, and the weak. They fought battles for the nobles and sometimes their king. They would fight bloody open field battles, or sometimes they would lay siege on the castles. Laying siege means that you would prevent the castle from receiving food and supplies from the outside world until they would eventually starve or cave in. In battle, they would sometimes use a battering ram to break down the door of a castle, and a battering ram was really big and you would just bash against the door until it broke. They would either use a sword or a lance to fight face to face. And they would sometimes use a mace, but they were really only used by the clerics because they didn't want to have a bunch of blood. And the knights would also usually ride horses until about maybe the 14th century. They would also wear 65-pound armor that would result in many back problems. So you'd fight, have a really sore back, and risk your life. Why would a person want to be a knight exactly? That sounds terrible, honestly. Well, yeah, it would have been. But you would get quite a few rewards that would make it a lot better than it would have been if you were just a serf, because let's face it, if you're a knight or a serf, you're probably gonna die pretty quickly either way, considering serfs would die of diseases very often, you know? So since this came up, why don't we talk about reward? So if you did well, your lord would give you land and or money, plenty of food, protection, and honor. You also didn't really have to worry about starving or some of the other things that serfs had to worry about. Knights were one step above the serfs and peasants in feudalism, and they could also compete in jousting matches. That part wasn't really a reward exactly, but it was just a little thing I wanted to add in. Alright, well, how'd you learn to become a knight? Usually only the sons of knights would train, but commoners would sometimes train to be knights also. This hardly ever happened though. They were cared for by the women of the castle until they were about 7. Then they were placed in the house of another lord or knight and were given the title of page. At this stage, they were taught how to hunt, read, write, and they were also taught about religion. They would also imitate knights and fight with other pages using wooden swords or lances. When the person would finally turn 14, they would officially become a squire. At this point, they would master the social behavior and chivalry of a knight, and they would learn how to fight, and they would learn how to handle a horse. They would usually wear around chainmail armor to get used to the weight. There were different kinds of squires that handled different jobs like bringing people wine or looking after the pantry. And then as they got older, they would train in full armor, they would assist the knights themselves, and sometimes travel with them also. They were officially knighted when they turned about 21, and after that they did everything all the older knights did. Were there any women knights? There were some women knights, but they didn't come around until much later, when it was just more of a place of honor. And there was a guild of women knights, but they did not last beyond their first group of official members. And well, I've said everything I really need to tell you by now. Yeah, goodbye.